Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Hello and a very warm welcome to your Monday night fix of Weigh-In. Under slightly different circumstances this week due to the impact of COVID-19 and the restrictions, of course, Auckland being in level 3 and the rest of the country level 2. With that in mind, I'm based out of the Hamilton studio today and my co-host Michael Guerin is based out of Auckland. And Michael, there's so much going on, so much to cram into the show today to update people, of course, around that issue with regards to the New Zealand derby.
Yeah, hi Em. Big hi to you. Hope everybody around the country who's joining us is staying safe and healthy and obeying all the COVID rules. Those rules, of course, are throwing a gigantic spanner in the Ellerslie machine for what was going to be Vodafone Derby Day on Saturday. What we do know is this, and we're going to try to fill you in with as much information as possible in the next 55 minutes, but particularly the start of the show. Derby Day has been moved from Saturday to Sunday. Now, the derby will be held on Sunday. That's confirmed unless there's dramatic COVID changes, but there are two options. The first of those is Ellerslie at level 2 if Auckland moves out of level 3. The second option, if Auckland is still at level 3, is, and this is a shock, Hastings to hold the derby meeting on Sunday. Emily, that will shock many people. The reasons for that and what happens with the logistics of that we'll discuss with Paul Wilcox from Ellerslie first, and then talk about some of the repercussions.
Yeah, exactly right. So we've got Paul Wilcox on the phone right now to update us on the ongoing situation. Paul, I'm sure it's been a pretty stressful 24 to 48 hours for you getting things underway and sorted following that announcement.
Yeah, hi Emily and hi Michael. But yeah, not just stressful for me. I'm only one in the cog. I'm sure it's not great for the trainers and particularly the owners of horses, not in the derby, but also the other support card races as well.
Coming up to one of the biggest weeks of your Auckland racetrack, tell us, first of all, what is the arrangements as things stand following on from Jacinda Ardern's announcement of that level 3 for Auckland for the next 7 days?
Yeah, look, we're going through different scenarios and looking at and have looked at all different options. We originally thought that the ability, if it can't be run at Ellerslie, we considered running it obviously on the Sunday, but we need a backup plan in case the alert level changes or don't change. And we also considered running the derby on the following Wednesday as well. But look, we then looked at the options of Te Araha. We went down, or not us going out of Auckland, we can't get out, but we sent a team over to Te Araha today. They looked at the course and obviously they weren't running in the next wee while, so it's not ready for a premier meeting. So then we turned our options to some other courses being Matamata and also Tauranga. Obviously with Tauranga, their derby start would only be 21.70, I think it is, off the top of head from memory, which is not palatable for us to run the derby at a shortened distance, particularly if you've got a horse in there that's a 2,400 metre horse and suddenly it gets shortened to 2,100. It's not fair. And then Matamata Racing Club, when we were talking with them, they stated that there's not a suitable start for the derby. So our next best option, obviously Te Rapa, prior to the lockdown, have done their annual track renovation, so Te Rapa was taken out of the mix. Our next best option, and an option where the club can hold a premier day, is Hawke's Bay. I know it's not ideal, it's left-handed versus right-handed, but we need to make the decision based on giving those horses a start, not just remembering the derby, but we have horses going into particularly the Sunline Bars that then will be moving on to the Oaks. We can't affect another racing club's pattern for those horses as well. So the decision at this stage is to leave it as late as possible, and we want to reconsider our options. We'll be looking and catching up again on Wednesday. By that stage, hopefully, we'll have a good understanding of what the situation looks like. And then when the Prime Minister makes her announcement on Friday, hopefully it gives us a green light for go where we can race, albeit a different style of day with no crowds at Ellerslie on the Sunday.
Paul, tell me the impact for your business, because obviously a number of businesses in Auckland are affected by this, but for the Ellerslie Auckland Racing Club in particular, how is it going to affect your business, these implications?
Yeah, look, from us, to be fair, it would be... It's not really something. It's financially, it's going to hurt us massively. But at the end of the day, my main priority at the minute is the concern for getting those horses to have the race, and again, not just the Derby, which is obviously the Blue Riband event on that day, but it's all the other races as well on that day. Is making sure we get the races underway so that those horses then have the option or the opportunity, more to the point, of either travelling further afield, example being Sunline Vars into the Oaks down at Wellington there, and particularly the other horses, Derby horses. We know how good the Derby winners go when they move then off to some of the Guineas in Australia, and trying their luck at the best that we have in the southern hemisphere. But yes, look, financially it's going to be a massive impact. But the good thing is today our team pretty much started and is going through and made a big chunk of refunds to those people that are booked into the Vodafone Derby Day. But it's the right thing to do where we're taking that hit. And it's not only the races that affect us at the minute, it's what we've been through this whole week, which will be a week by the time we come around to whatever the Prime Minister announces, what we have lost financially over the week for just the normal running of our events. It will be a massive impact for us, but at this point in time, that's the least of my worries.
Wilco, thank you for joining us tonight. I know it's been a pretty tough time for you guys today. What do you need to hear from the Prime Minister or the health authorities on Friday at the latest for you to say, yes, we're a go for Ellerslie? Do they actually need to confirm it's going to be returning Auckland to level 2?
Look, at this stage, Michael, we're hoping that tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday before the announcement, there are 0 new cases. If that's the case, we will, like the last time we came out of the very shortened lockdown, we got the information through from various other parties, being obviously Chris Hipkins when he was speaking around. He doesn't see why the lockdown wouldn't be released. So hopefully we're hearing those positive communications from those leaders of the country that lead us to believe that we can pull the trigger. What we also have to be mindful, though, is the decision. There are horses coming from, and I'll use the example of Jono and Holly bringing their horse up from Otaki. You've got to give them plenty of time. I don't want them not having the best opportunity in the race, wherever it may be run, where we leave the decision too late and it affects the travelling of that horse to where it's coming up and it hasn't had a normal travel time as what it would. So we'll leave it to after the announcement on Friday. Let's just hope that the Prime Minister is giving us the right news that we want to hear on that Friday, where we can make the decision to push ahead with hopefully Sunday at Ellerslie, and this week will hopefully be a distant memory.
Wilco, there'll be people watching this who, like you, are incredibly frustrated by this and, of course, the uncertainty of it. There's an Alexandra Park harness racing meeting, a premier meeting on Friday night. There'll be people going, why are they holding one and we're not? Just to answer that before I ask you the next question, obviously there's more horse people who live north of the border, but there are still horse people coming from Waikato. Explain to me, Paul, why we can't get a bus and put 20 jockeys from south of the border on that bus with the 12 starting gate staff, who are crucial. We need the starting gate staff. Take them to Ellerslie, they work, they get back on the bus, they don't touch anybody and they go home. That may sound incredibly simple, but why is it not possible to make it happen?
I couldn't answer that to you, Michael. Look, at the end of the day, we're only one part of the cog in the industry, so that would be needed to be asked of our governing body as to why Harness Racing New Zealand and Alexandra Park can push ahead under level 3, and why the opportunity for us, we can't have the same conditions afforded to us.
Okay, so that's, NZTR, just to answer the NZTR, are talking to the Department of Internal Affairs. I think maybe it might need a slightly bigger hammer than that. This is a pretty big meeting. Wilco, are you upset about this? Are you pissed off about this? I mean, this is a big day and it could be taken away from our premier track to go to a track which is an awfully long way away. That sounds like it's been partially taken out of your control. How do you feel about this as the boss of Ellerslie?
Yeah, look, probably it's not how I feel about it. It's my primary concern, Michael, to be honest, and I've had lots of messages, some really good messages and some pretty poor messages, but at the end of the day, my primary concern is, like I mentioned before to Emily, is, we have to have these horses running. Yes, is it ideal that they're going left hand versus right hand? No, that's going to impact some horses. But at the end of the day, if I take the risk and say, okay, we're going to race on Wednesday, for example, push it back to a Wednesday, and then we get locked down, what then happens to those horses? Particularly the Derby horses are only 3 years of age once. The opportunities that will then get shut for them, I don't think that's a responsible decision to make. Will people be happy with this decision? No, they won't. Some will be, some won't be. But at the end of the day, we have to make the decision based on what we know. We've done the best to our ability to give people enough notice that of the potential changes. In a perfect world, do I want the Derby run at Ellerslie? Absolutely. Just like I know Canterbury want their Guineas races at Canterbury, just like Wellington want their Oaks Day and Te Rapa with their Legends Day. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we can't be selfish, and we can't be, if I was purely selfish and said, yes, I'm really pissed off and blah-de-blah-de-blah, what's that achieving? Sometimes we have to step back and take a look at what's better for the wider industry. And, I, for one, don't want to just make decisions that make us feel good to have our Derby Day at Ellerslie when potentially it could affect a club like Wellington with their fields and, for example, the Oaks. I don't think that's right. And so our decisions have been made without emotion and looking at the best opportunity to ensure we're giving as much notice as we can to enable those races to be done, and hopefully come Friday afternoon we get some good news, and albeit it'll be a different day, but at least we can run the Derby Day card at Ellerslie and be happy about that getting underway.
Paul, talking to your racing manager tonight, Craig Baker, he said obviously they'll take nominations tomorrow morning as if the meeting is going ahead, which we all hope it is, and then they can make some slight changes around distances and starting numbers if it does have to move to Hastings. Question for you, Paul, and this is a slightly tricky one, but often when the government make these changes to alert levels, they add an extra day or two for to get everybody prepared for the next level. The most logical place if they were to do that for it to go to would be 11:59 or midnight on a Sunday night, the next day being a work day for many people. Does this still stay in place? If the government come out on Friday and say Auckland is going to level 2 at midnight on Sunday night, is that too late? Does the Derby still definitely, under those circumstances, go to Hastings?
Probably under that scenario, Michael. Look, I have not discussed that with the group that we've been talking about, but that could potentially change things as long as we had the prior warning and enough time. What I don't want to have happen, and I'm not a trainer here, so please, I hope all the trainers don't say I'm way off the mark here, but I need to get an understanding of if then we don't race it on the Sunday and say we potentially race the Derby at Ellerslie on the Monday, what does that mean for those horses? Those horses are trained, and this would be a question for Tony Pike and his group. Tony heads up the Trainers Association. This would need to be an understanding of, does one day make a difference? I don't want to be sitting here right now saying, yes, we could easily do that, when it could be completely out of the realm because Tony and his trainers might say, no, you can't just turn a horse off on one day and turn it back on another let's say that we'll chuck that in the mix and have a look at that option as well.
Paul, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been really good to get your insight, of course, into this situation, and we're very appreciative of your time. And I know everybody's really hoping that the derby and that undercard can be run at Ellerslie at some point, be it Sunday or perhaps, as we heard there, maybe Monday instead.
Yeah, before I go, Emily, if I may, can I just say, look, we're obviously going through a tough time as a lot of other people are as well, and it's, you know, one thing we've got to remember is also under the level 3 scenario we're sitting in at the minute, you know, one also has to consider, is it the right thing to be racing under an alert level 3? Now, I'm not sticking the boot into Alexandra Park in the slightest, but I've got friends that are in the hospitality industry. That's a background that I came from when I was a very young person, and I've had, well, my teeth are a lot longer than that now. But we just also have to remember that there are a lot of people out there doing it tough. And I just hope, and like I said, you know, I've had, and I appreciate people calling me with some good constructive feedback, but let's just remain above board. Let's not get dirty and nasty with our comments, and whether it's a right or wrong decision, I'm always up for a discussion about that. But I just want people to understand at the end of the day we are human, and sometimes we'll get it right, sometimes we'll get it wrong, but I can assure you I've never been put in this situation before, and I just want to thank my team at the Auckland Racing Club, because those guys and girls that work there, they've been absolutely massive. And, you know, for us to have turned around from Sunday evening, or Saturday evening, beg your pardon, to today and be refunding the majority of the people that were coming to the Vodafone Derby, I can't take my hat off to that team, and I just appreciate a little bit of understanding from some of those people that might be high in emotion at the minute.
Yeah, exactly right. Paul, well said. Thank you for your time. Michael, I suppose being kind, very important, as we've heard all along through this process. And I don't know about you, but just hearing from Paul, I think if trainers, jockeys, anybody, Michael, has feedback and constructive criticism for this situation, come forward, have your say, and make sure that all options are explored. What Paul was saying about perhaps moving to the Monday, of course, they did that at Randwick when the derby was abandoned on the Saturday and they ran it on that Easter Monday. It meant that the horses had to gallop on the Saturday or have a quick gallop on the Sunday, but it was possible, it did happen, and the derby came back to New Zealand that year too. So I think just having some constructive criticism and getting in touch with the authorities to have your say is very important in this situation.
Yeah, Emily, I've spoken to a lot of trainers about this today. Everybody is shocked. And first thing, getting to Paul's situation at the club, no one is accusing them of doing anything wrong. They don't run the industry. NZTR run the industry, and everybody's trying to do their best. So I fully understand that. And there's a lot of moving parts to this which are not known and cannot be known for several days coming up. Also, COVID kills people, so we don't need to be losing perspective on just how serious this could be. But talking to the trainers, I get the feeling that some of them would prefer it to be at Ellerslie, and some of them are more important that it's run on at least this weekend. It may be Monday's an extension of that, because they don't want to be rolling Oaks horses out on a Wednesday, then taking them down to Trentham. There's also trainers from the other point of view, so I don't want to go to Hastings, come back to Cambridge or Auckland, then go to Trentham for the Oaks. And both those things are really relevant. I can see both arguments for that. What I don't understand is this, and this is really important, is this could happen again. Could happen next week, could happen the week after. This is one person who started this incident through maybe not obeying the rules as we're being told by the government. If that's the case, we need to put protocols in place, and we can't keep saying that Ellerslie, which is our best racetrack, can't race every time there's a level 3 when Sydney pulled it off for an enormously long time. If we can get work exemptions for the jockeys and the starting attendants, we can hold this race meeting. That's as simple as that. We don't need anybody else. Everybody else we can find. George Simon, yep, that'd be good, but we can find other people. But we need the starting attendants and the jockeys, and they would all fit on one bus. So why can't we pick them up at the Cambridge track at 9 o'clock in the morning, take them to Ellerslie, they don't touch anybody, they don't set foot on Auckland soil or near anybody who could possibly have COVID, and then we send them home. That sounds really easy. I know that needs work exemptions. I'm not saying it can't be done, but harness racing drivers, 3 of them, have work exemptions. Why aren't we not asking all jockeys to apply for work exemptions for these reasons, and then using the sledgehammer of actually getting the bosses of the TAB or the bosses of NZTR to ring the Deputy Prime Minister? I know he's not going to pick up first call, but say, hey, Grant, you seem to really like our industry. Can we do this? This seems reasonable to me. NRL clubs in Australia are sending players from Brisbane to Sydney, then flying them back because they're not going out into the general public. Why can't we do that? That sounds normal to me and preferable to moving 40 people in a bus to moving 110 horses in 15 transporters. That's what I want to see worked on this week, because it's not impossible, and there's a lot of people crossing that border. It's not like no one's getting into Auckland. A lot of people are crossing that border. If that deadline is pushed back to 11:59 on Sunday, and those jockeys come in and are told they have to stay at Ellerslie till midnight, they can go home at midnight. I can come down and see you at midnight, Ian. We can do whatever we want. Auckland's can leave at midnight if we go back to level 2, like the rest of the country. So those jockeys and starting assistants can come here, stay the night, or go home. These things are all in play. And I think moving one of the biggest meetings of the year for the sake of what's effectively 30 or 40 people, when the harness racing meeting's going ahead on Friday night, I think it shows the galloping industry in a bad light.
Well, Michael, I'm not sure how simple that is, but certainly needs to be worked through, that is for sure, and questions that definitely for the industry do need to be answered. Now, a number of people would have invested in the futures markets, and important to update those around the Derby and, of course, the Auckland Cup. Michael, a really good information coming out from the TAB with regards to people who have had a futures bet on the Derby.
Yeah, so prior to 2017, if a race was moved more than 3 days or the venue changed, futures bets were canned and all refunds were handed back. That's different, that's changed now. If a race is scheduled and the distance doesn't change by more than 10%, which means the Derby going back to 2,150 metres, then all bets stand. So bets, if you've had a future bet on the Derby and the horse is still in play, if your horse was scratched, if you're back down Marolina, well, you're not going to get your money back from this point onwards, or you're back to Agon. But if you're still in the field, Thad Taylor from the TAB told me that if on Friday, Emily, it is decided the meeting goes to Hastings, then they will have a cash out option. So they'll say to people, if you're still in the field. If you're in the field, you can choose to cash your bet out. You might lose some money, you might get a bit more money depending how the market has fluctuated, but you'll be allowed to cash out because of the change of venue and because that's good faith. So the TAB will implement that if there is a change. If there is no change and the meeting is held at Ellerslie on Sunday or at Ellerslie another time, for example Monday, those bets in the future markets will stand. If you're nominating for tomorrow, do so as normal. We are hoping we are at Ellerslie on Sunday, but of course, Emily, that isn't at the behest of NZTR or the Auckland Racing Club. They're all doing the best they can. That announcement, we hope, is before Friday, but at this stage will be after the Prime Minister's press conference if she holds one of those on Friday.
Well, we're going to get you off to a break here on Weigh In, and on the back of that, we get into something a little bit more positive, and it's our racing reviews from Saturday. Today's Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Hello and welcome back into Weigh-In. Under slightly different circumstances, I'm based out of the Hamilton studio today with my co-host Michael Guerin out of Auckland. As I mentioned prior to that break, we wanted to move Michael into something a little bit more positive, and it's time to go Group 1 racing as we take in Avantage taking out the Otaki Wait for Age.
Travelling light behind them, shadows cast, and Maldameri as they run down the side before the home corner. 500 metres still to go, and here Avantage going up to tackle Deerfield. Call Sign Mav behind them, House of Cartier, and Travelling Light looks to get to the outside. Avantage shot to the lead, 300 metres out. Call Sign Mav, Travelling Light on the outside, running on, 200 metres to go. Avantage a couple of lengths in front. Call Sign Mav tries hard, over on the outside, Travelling Light. Avantage is making ground, Call Sign Mav, but she has done it. That's 8 Group 1s and a $2 million barrier broken, and back to back here. She's too good.
Well, as Tony Lee said, an 8th Group 1 for the mighty mare Avantage, the daughter of Fastnet Rock. I think Fastnet Rock's most winning progeny, and she did it in fine fashion as well. She was the short-priced favourite, and she took out the race with ease, beating home Call Sign Mav. Michael, it was what we predicted, a win from Avantage, and it was a good result. What did you make of the race?
It was actually kind of like a shoulder shrugger for me, Em. She's so fantastic. You get used to her winning. You should have shrugged your shoulders and go, oh, okay, that was kind of awesome. And then you look at the numbers and you see she's gone to 8 Group 1s and passed $2 million in stakes. I don't think anybody saw anything they didn't expect out of Otaki the other day. Lovely ride by Opie. He took bad luck out of play, but you can do that when you're on a $1.25 chance. The big question is the next question. Where does she go? So I spoke to Graeme Richardson tonight. He said there's still a chance she heads to the Bone Crusher. That's Ellerslie on the 13th, where she would take on Melody Bell. So Jamie told me tonight, Melody Bell definitely going. That could raise a question. Who would Opie ride in that situation? You probably know that better than I do. And then if she doesn't head there, they are potentially thinking about the Coolmore for the mares at Group 1 level at Randwick on the 10th of April. So I get the feeling they're going to see how she came through the run. She's a lot of travelling. She's been to Hawke's Bay 3 times. She's been to Trentham. She's been to Otaki. But I think they'll consider Ellerslie. But of course, if they were to get a major scalp in Sydney, that increases her value considerably more when eventually she's likely to be sold at an option. So I'll ask you, Emily, who do you think Opie would ride in the Bone Crusher? Do you think he'd ride Melody Bell going for the record or a very informed Avantage?
It's a good question, actually. I'm not sure. I'd say he'd make his decision pretty late, as he always does, but obviously it is up to the connections as well as to what they want to do, and I don't think there's much splitting them. We saw that at Hawke's Bay. I've got a question for you, though, Michael. We've seen Avantage effective over all distance ranges, the 1200 right up to the 2000. What do you think's her optimum trip?
I think early in the prep she's a 1200 metre horse, but I think she's probably a natural miler. I mean, she's got that Zabeel blood on the dam side, so you would think 2000's no issue, but she's so good at a mile, and I think a Randwick mile would really suit her because it races, you know, like quite a long distance type of race, maybe even up to 1800 metres. I would give her the chance in Aussie. I would just say, Melody Bell, you do whatever you need to do over here, and that means the Bone Crusher or maybe the Tiara, her breeders, and then I would give her chance in Australia, and then she can come back next season, because I doubt they'll retire her, because they're going to retire Melody Bell. She would be favourite for almost every Group 1 race in New Zealand next year, unless a Catalyst comes back or Aegon in crazy form, but I get the feeling we're not going to see much of Aegon in New Zealand then. She might actually have a shot. This sounds crazy. She might have a shot at Melody Bell's record next season, because she's won 4 Group 1s this season, so why couldn't she do the same thing next season? It's not that easy, I know. Just out of the race, obviously Call Sign Mav, excellent, really good. What John Owen is doing with that horse is teaching him to be a distance horse and maybe get to the 2000 metres, which I think he's going to do the way he's racing. And good to see Travelling Light back to some sort of form. Spoke to Ben Foot tonight. She's going to head to the Japan Trophy on the 27th of March. Then she's off to Tiara. So Tiara for her for the Breeders' Stakes, where potentially Melody Bell could be waiting, and a couple more horses you might see later in the show.
Yeah, we've got to get on to Matamata next, where we had a wonderful day of stakes racing, and we saw the Group 2 Matamata Breeders' Stakes taken out by Bonnie Lass.
Diva, and back with a Madam Sass. Homeward bound they are. 250 to go. Beldara travels well over on the inside. Tackled by Bonnie Lass. 2 lengths away. Nova Show being called upon. Then Craving. Beldara tackled by Bonnie Lass. Bonnie Lass, Beldara coming after them. Nova Show and Fonsolette out wide. It's Bonnie Lass in front. Fonsolette's flying out wide, but Bonnie Lass won the Matamata Breeders' Stakes. Second.
She was well fancied to win the Matamata Breeders' Stakes, and it was a pretty open race, but she showed her worth by getting home to a lovely victory, and it was a really wonderful day for Rogan Novell and of course Graeme Richardson as they trained a hat-trick on the programme. We invited Graeme Richardson onto the show this evening, and Graeme, congratulations, a fantastic result. Reading a couple of articles, I understand there was a pretty big night at the Italian on Saturday. Very well deserved celebration, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. It was actually. It was. I didn't do any emails until that Sunday night because I didn't have a voice in the morning, Sunday morning. But it was a great night and a great day. Actually, it's just one day I won't forget in a long time.
especially at your home track as well. I know a lot of trainers at Matamata, that is the coveted prize, the Matamata Breeders' Stakes, and you took it home with Bonnie Lass. What were your confidence levels like coming into the race?
I'd seen a couple other horses on the track working very well, and I was confident. I knew I had a horse that could win it, but there was also a couple other horses in the race that could as well. So you never get too carried away in group races. You just try and do your best to make sure the horse is 100% right on the day, and that's all we did.
Richo, congratulations, mate, to you and Rogan. Also to Sandy Moore, of course, who's the vice president of the Auckland Racing Club, a hell of a good guy, and he's bred this horse. I suppose, Richo, when a little super easy filly turns up in the barn, there's not a great deal of expectation or pressure with a horse like her. When did you first start to realise she had a motor?
Well, to be quite honest, it's through Brent Cooper, who manages the horse and is head of social racing. So, and through obviously Mark and Jenny Baker as well. I had a fair bit to do with Super Easy. I had a share in them earlier on in the piece. Always liked Super Easy, and I left a lot of nice horses. So I was chuffed when she came into the stable. But you could talk 3 months ago thinking, I won't have one in the Breeders' Stakes, but things with a filly like her, she's so natural, and the things just changed straight away.
Mate, what do you do with her now? Because obviously you've got a Group 2 winner and an unbeaten filly. I presume the temptation's there to go look for a Group 1.
I was just talking to Brent earlier on today, and both agree that possibly the Systema might come up a little bit too early on the 13th, and she's pulled up very, very well, but she did leave a little bit of taker for 2 nights, and I'm just thinking, we're both thinking that maybe Awapuni would be a better option. The 1,400 metres, I think she'll go the 1,400 metres, and she even slipped at the start. Her back legs went from underneath her, and so it was a better effort than it even actually looked.
Graeme, that wasn't just the only winner on the program. You had a couple of others as well. Tell me your reaction after Paisley Park won. That was a lovely performance as well.
I was absolutely chuffed. I talked on the TV just a minute or so before the race. I was pretty confident with the horse. Wiremu Pin rode him, and he rode him extremely well. I said to go forward, and that's what he did. The horse Paisley Park was a bit unlucky at New Plymouth. He should have, not saying he would have won, but he would have run possibly second if he'd been able to get out and go forward at the 600 like he did at Matamata. Absolutely chuffed for Gary Christini and Dave Trubshaw. Great people, and they've had some nice horses, but especially Dave, he was there, and he had the biggest grin on his face. Was great to see.
What do you do with the horse now? I heard a little whisper that maybe you look across the Tasman for Paisley Park.
Oh, I've always said that to Dave, that he'd make a lovely country cups horse, and he will. He'd be a better horse for cut in the ground. We're actually decided today that we'll probably run him in the Bone Crusher. I know he's not a weight for age horse, but to be fair, there's a lot of horses in New Zealand running that aren't weight for age horses, and so he'll go there. And if he performs well, then we probably won't go down for the Awapuni Cup because he might get too much weight. But we'll look at the Bone Crusher. He'll be lining up against Tiptronic and obviously those other ones you were talking about before. But I think he deserves a crack at that Bone Crusher.
Mate, you also won with Light Brocade earlier in the day. You had the temptation, of course, to extend out to the 1,500 metres for the Stella Artois final. Just nothing could have went well there. Is this a horse who might stick to that 12 to 14 range, Richo?
I think I will. She was very, very disappointing that day at Ellerslie, and there was no reason for it. She stopped out of it really quite badly. Didn't try it well. She tried, but it just wasn't her day. So I threw a set of blinkers on her, and it was a great ride by Craig Grills as well. Just drew the outside, went forward, and kept going. But she's always shown ability. This girl.
Graeme, thanks so much for taking the time to come on Weigh In tonight. A massive congratulations for your results, to you and Rogan as well. And hopefully that's the start of many more for the rest of this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week this week. So we've got horses at Hastings and Australia. So we're looking forward to the form keep going.
Thanks, Graeme. Of course, Graeme, speaking of defibrillators, well, going around in an Australian Cup. Best of luck to him and the ownership group involved. Let's move you along to the slipper from Matamata, and it was taken out by a dazzling performance by the Te Akau trained Sword of State.
Leads by 2 on the bubbles, out after it in second spot. Battling away then over on the inside, Dragon Biscuit, but Sword of State, he's put them to the sword here. He's 3 and 4 lengths in front from On the Bubbles and Dragon Biscuit further back. Not a bad buy in Avanella, but whoa, what a win. What a statement. Sword of State has bolted in second On the Bubbles.
George, Simon probably summed it up perfectly. What a statement. You just saw that electric turn of foot from Sword of State, pretty much exactly like we saw at Te Rapa that day when Sword of State stepped out. It was a beautiful performance by this lovely colt, Michael. And I did have a think to myself, we saw him left-handed at Te Rapa, left-handed at Matamata, and both times we've seen that great acceleration from him.
Yeah, and both tracks probably played to the insider touch. I mean, Te Rapa was pretty fair on their Cup day, but let's be honest, the other day Matamata was red hot on the inside. I mean, Coventina Bay came from off the speed, but man, they scooted up the inside the other day. I can't believe this horse drifted in the market. There was a massive push for On the Bubbles, who's obviously a very, very good horse. We're not saying he's not, but he was always going to be behind Sword of State. Jamie had mentioned he thought that Dragon Biscuit might take Sword of State on and turn the race on its head, but when that didn't happen, Sword of State was certainly a long, long way from home. Going back to Ellerslie, if he can get the first 600 of the Sistema without any pressure, he's going to be awfully hard to catch again. So he's a big, strong, rolling schnitzel. On the Bubbles, didn't lose too many admirers, but yeah, I think between the two of them, barrier draws could well decide the Sistema, of course, obviously with other horses in play.
Yeah, it certainly adds another complexion to that Sistema Stakes. Looking forward to seeing them both step out and show us what they've got in that Sistema Stakes in just a week or so's time. Let's move you along to the Lisa Chittick Plate, and it was the day of Coventina Bay, who won in electric fashion.
Supreme Heights from Kiwiita, Syracuse, Concert Hall right down the outside, down to the 200, taking over Familiar. Familiar now, look at, here comes Coventina Bay. Whoa, she's charged to the lead with 100 to go. Shut the gate. She got all the luck in the world and she's racing away. Coventina Bay, brilliant one. Second over was Familiar.
She was like a little race car weaving through traffic. Coventina Bay, she showed that wonderful turn of foot. Robbie Patterson trained mare, and Aidan caught up with him pre-race on the day at Matamata, and he said, I don't feel like I've got her any better, and I think the key to her is having her fresh coming into these races, and just shows he got it absolutely spot on, because I think that was her at her absolute brilliant best. Now a 7-time winner in 12 career starts, Michael, and I understand that the Group 1 Thoroughbred Breeder Stakes is that main aim for her, and she'll be certainly up to being there against some of our better mares.
Yeah, lovely ride too by Sam Collett. Didn't panic. She didn't let her get too far back in the field for a horse who does like to settle early. She kept her handy enough to give her options and not getting behind traffic or being forced to come to the outside. And yes, it did open up for her, but it was a lovely piece of riding. Spoke to Robbie tonight. Going to the Cuddle Stakes, that's on Oaks Day, that's the 20th of March. So it goes to the Cuddle leading into Te Araha. Now, we could potentially have at Te Araha Levante, which means this horse might need a new rider, because Sam might stick with Levante. I don't know the answer. Coventina Bay, obviously, travelling light, and maybe Melody Bell. So it could be one hell of a race. Just on Entre Via, I thought Entre Via might head there. Jamie said they're going to go to the King's Plate with Entre Via this week, and then she is less likely to hang around. He's not going to try and extend her out to 1600 for the Te Araha Breeders, but it's already shaping, Emily, as a real autumn beauty for us, the Te Araha race.
Yeah, mouth-watering contest of all of those horses line up. Well, let's do our weekly update around the Trainers and Jockeys Premiership. Having a little look at those premierships, you can see Jamie Richards, the clear leader there with 118 wins and just over $4.4 million in stakes. Stephen Marsh having a great season as well with the 53 wins. Alan Sharrock, the Pitmans, and then 2 Baker Forsman for that Trainers Premiership. And now a look at the Jockeys Premiership. Danielle Johnson, 607 starts for 127 wins and just shy of $2.9 million in stakes. Great to see Craig Grylls having a really good day out at its home track of Matamata on Saturday. Understand he moved house on Friday. So certainly was a good treat to see him riding a couple of winners on Saturday. Sam Collett in there as well, Lisa Allpress, Hazel Schofer and then Opie Lawson. So that is our Jockeys Premiership and Trainers Premiership here on Weigh-In as we get you to a break. And on the back of that, we jump the ditch and we head across the Tasman to the Australian racing.
Finally, I feel complete. The days of my heart searching for love are over. Now I'm complete. Finally, I feel complete. The days of my heart.
Today's Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. You're back with us on Weigh-In, and as promised, we jump the ditch and head across the Tasman to Australia, where we had another bumper weekend of racing action. And one of our very finest Kiwi exports came to the fore again, taking out the Chipping Norton Stakes. I speak, of course, of Very Elegant.
It's Very Elegant, really wound up. Colette as well. They join Colding. Then Fun Star. Avelia starting to run into the race well. It's Colette and Very Elegant, the two great mares, and Avilius the outside. Very Elegant and Colette. What a race! Avilius the outside trying to beat the pair of them, but no! Very Elegant, brave, Very Elegant, beat Colette and Avilius.
She is very brave, isn't she? She knew exactly where the winning post was and she was just too tough. What a call by Darren Flindell and what a finish. Colette, Avilius, Fun Star, all in that finish. Colding there as well, getting up to the line. But it went the way of Very Elegant. That was a 7th Group 1 for Very Elegant. She joins Mackay Diva with that record. And unbelievably, Michael, a 9th Chipping Norton in 11 years for Kiwi Chris Waller. That was his 119th Group 1 winner of his career, and well done to James McDonald as well.
Yeah, the Chris Waller-James McDonald partnership's becoming incredibly hard to beat in these big races. That was a beautiful ride by J-Mac. He moved at exactly the right time to get outside Colette, to make her go and put pressure on them and put some other horses in a bit of a hole. Villiers had to come out and go around him. The most remarkable thing, Em, is I think we both know she'll be better, A, if it's wetter, and B, up to 2,000, or in her case, 2,400 metres. So, man, it's incredible to think the sort of money she can race for, Emily, in the next 6 weeks.
I know Adabe is coming back across the Tasman, of course, who beat her in that Queen Elizabeth last year, and she'll be looking to turn the tables on that European import. She did just that when beating Anthony Van Dyke in the Caulfield Cup, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare once again. Do you think she can turn the tables, Michael?
That European form, as we've both been lucky enough to go to Royal Ascot a few times, it's pretty impressive stuff. I mean, when you see what the second-tier Europeans often do out here, Emily, a horse who can win on Champions Day, geez, going to be hard to beat. Still, he's got to travel, he's got to get there, she's there. She's obviously a better mare than last season, so she has plenty of advantages over Adabe. I thought that was an interesting race. I thought Colette's an interesting horse, depending what they want to do with her, because, of course, she can extend out to 2,400 too, but they could be tempted to go down maybe a Doncaster path and clash with an Aegon-type horse. So, yeah, I think a lot of those horses will be looking to maybe not, while the Queen Elizabeth's $4 million, it'll be easy to say, well, where can I go where there's no Adabe and no Very Elegant? Because that's sort of the level of scariness she's getting to for our old mate, her dad said.
Yeah, exactly. Such a wonderful story behind him, isn't there? Nobody needs any reminding about that. We also wanted to show you the skyline, which was taken out by O President.
President going well, Buckupple on front of Triste, Captive on very one pace, Shaquira the inside and Halal the outside, and they're both 5 off the leader, O President, which is trying to steal this inside the 200. O President well clear, Halal's the only danger now, but O President still 3 in front, 2 lengths clear, and O President is going to lead all the way, ran them ragged in the Skyline Stakes. O President linked to Halal.
Really interesting Kiwi connection here with O President. Of course, O President's dam is O'Marilyn, who was originally purchased by Trevor McKee for $130,000. And O'Marilyn, the dam, she was a Group 1 winner. You might remember her of the Sire's Produce, and she won actually 2 Group 3s at 3 as well. And this colt by Fastnet Rock was a pretty expensive purchase, $520,000 by James Bester. And Michael looks like he's living right up to expectation now with 2 wins in just 3 starts.
Yeah, and we're seeing this Chris Waller 2-year-old thing starting to really grow. If Chris had a weakness as a trainer, it's not a weakness, it was something he didn't concentrate on. It was the 2-year-old, so it wasn't a big part of his makeup, and we're seeing so many of those 2-year-olds in his barn now. Of course, he won the Magic Million, so yeah, he's clearly now become a force at all levels of training, outside probably jumps training, to be honest. So some of these 2-year-olds he's working with now are obviously far better machinery. Sir Peter Vella, of course, is one of the Peter owners of the horse, so they get what some people tag stallion syndicates, but they prefer to call them colt syndicates. Of course, it's hard to make horses into stallions, but these guys bought en masse, and they bought a lot of horses, mainly through Guy Mulcaster, at all ranges of sales, and they've invested big money in him. So far so good. They are really churning out the 2-year-old winners in what's a very open slipper year. I think the slipper is starting to feel like some of the horses are getting tired. They've been to the Magic Millions, they've been to the Blue Diamond. It's going to be interesting to see how that all percolates through the system.
Yeah, we've got that golden slipper market for you, actually, and you can see Profiteer opened at 26s and has come into 4s. Interesting, Enthar opened at 6s and gone right out to the 15s. And O President, you can still get $21 around O President, opened at $101. Did you have a comment on this, Michael?
Look, I think it's a really open slipper. I think a lot of these horses have travelled, and then we've got Melbourne form versus what was Queensland form, with horses like Shakiro coming back and not shining there. And then obviously the slipper is so often run in the wet these days. So I'm not sure why Sydney's wetter in the autumn than it used to be, but it sure is now. So I think it's a really interesting market. James McDonald quoted on the radio this morning as saying, I think the boys have it over the girls. Really interesting, considering he was riding She's All Class early in the season when she was also fantastic. So maybe that's a factor to take into play, because J-Mac would have sat on the back of a lot of these favoured runners before, Emily.
It's a fantastic day at the races, the Golden Slipper. I think there's 5 Group 1s on the programme. It's a real super Saturday there out of Rose Hill, and put it on the bucket list. Might not happen this year due to COVID, but as a racing fan, certainly is one of those great race meetings in Australia. Let's take you down to Victoria now, and we move along to the Australian Guineas. Luna Fox, the winner of this one.
The outside from Grand Slam and Ole Kirk. Tagaloa the first to straighten at the 400 metres. A length and a half. Azar Jet Propulsion. It's Our Time Embolism. Zoo Dancer whacks away from Luna Fox. Tagaloa at the clock tower led. Embolism and Azar coming out after him. Then came Luna Fox. Jet Propulsion. Still Tagaloa. Embolism coming at him and Luna Fox. Tagaloa looking to hold on. Luna Fox and Cherry Tortoni from the clouds. Luna Fox. Luna Fox. It's a boil over in the Guineas. Beat Cherry Tortoni. Photo third. Tagaloa.
I think a number of people around the track, including the Connections, Mick D, they were absolutely speechless off the back of this performance. That was the longest priced Group 1 winner in Australian racing, reaching as long as $301. Michael, it's why we love racing, isn't it? These quirky little stories. And as they say, you've got to be in to win. And I think Luna Fox pretty much sums that up.
Yeah, and Mick D's had a tough last year. He's ridden a whole bunch of winners in Australia, of course, but he had a nasty fall, did Mick, and very popular guy. I must admit, when he left New Zealand, I didn't quite see him becoming this level of Group 1 rider, not from a lack of talent, just because it's so hard to get on Group 1 winning chances. I suppose it's not quite so hard to get on a 300 to 1 chance, but yep, he's turning into a very serious rider who's going to be in a lot of big races. I do think, Emily, looking at that field, the best version of Aegon, the Sydney version we saw the week before, wouldn't be too scared of many of those, to be honest. I'm not saying rah-rah Aegon because we're New Zealanders, but on what he showed us in Sydney, you can make a case he might be the best 3-year-old miler in Australia, and it's pretty hard to make a case that something else is better than him.
Yeah, they all look beatable, don't they? It just depends who turns up on the day. Let's get you along to the Blamey Stakes, and this race offers a wild card into the All-Star Mile, and Star of the Seas was successful.
Mystic Journey in 50 stars, 350 metres to go. Buffalo River Cargoes for the whip, still 3 lengths to Best of Days Irish Flame. Star of the Seas down the outer and 50 stars running on. Buffalo River at the clock tower getting weary. 2.5 lengths in front of Star of the Seas and 50 stars. Buffalo River's curling up. Star of the Seas has got him. 50 stars the late challenger, but Stars of the Seas has won it by a neck to 50 stars and Buffalo River.
I know Chris Waller was down in Melbourne during the week, and when he saw Star of the Seas and how he'd travelled down, he was really buoyed. The confidence levels were up, and he gets a wild card into the All-Star Mile, Michael, and that's a real positive for the son of Ocean Park. A big well done to Waikato Stud on that achievement.
Yeah, and look, he's getting into the right All-Star Mile. We know that Probable's going to be there, and so is Arcadia Queen. Russian Camelot's going in fresh, but it's not a scary All-Star Mile. Like, it's obviously very, very good. We're not being stupid about it, but it's not an All-Star Mile where you're talking about winks turning up or being terrifying. So this horse is Group 1 placed on multiple occasions. Why couldn't he be at least a factor there? The flip side of that, without trying to be a parochial Kiwi, I'm sure that Jamie Richards and also the Grant Williams team with Arcadia Queen haven't been scared by him either. So I saw nothing on Saturday, Emily, to suggest to me that those two wonderful mares aren't the top 2 horses and should be the top 2 horses for that All-Star Mile. Now, that's Saturday week. They've drawn the 10 horses who are in the field, the people who get those horses as a $250,000 winner if that horse happens to win. So they're available on the All-Star Mile website. There's still now 4 or 5 wild cards to go. But as you can see there, the mares do dominate the market. Well done to Trelawney. I'm pretty sure they bred this horse. Actually, I know Ocean Park's a Waikato stud horse, but I think Trelawney bred him and sold him. So they continue what's been a wonderful, strong couple of years for them.
Yeah, they do. Option 3146, if you'd like to have a futures bet into the All-Star Mile. Arcadia Queen, I felt there was a good bit of improvement from her out of that futurity, but Probable, she is our queen, and hopefully she can fly that flag high in the All-Star Mile. Well, that's just about it from us here on Weigh In this evening. Must say a really big thank you to all the people behind the scenes who made this show possible tonight. The crew there at NEP Studios in Auckland, and also the crew at the TAB, who really moved hell and high water to make it possible to have this show this evening, Michael. It's different, but it's worked, and it just shows what can be done in testing circumstances. Yeah, well, it's important, I think, we keep the industry updated. To get those words direct from Paul Wilcox are important. So just to review that for you. On Friday at this stage, unless there's an alert level change indicated by the government earlier, on Friday, Ellerslie will wait for the latest announcement. They will then tell you at home, and follow their social media channels too, whether we have the Derby on Sunday, potentially, possibly Monday, at Ellerslie, or whether it heads to Hastings on Sunday. So, Emily, an historic decision coming up this week, one way or the other. By this time next week, we should have run the Derby for 2021, and I suppose that's the most important part, along with everybody at home staying safe. Thanks for having your company here on Weigh In. We look forward to joining you next week.